This podcast is brought to you by our supporters at Patreon. Visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and join us at the $5 level where you can get 25 bonus episodes of this show, 35 and a half hours of bonus content. Movies like Die Hard, She's All That, The Lost Boys, Dirty Dancing, Footloose, Top Gun, Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Halloween, Tremors, Lethal Weapon, multiple instances of The Golden Girls, E.T., and The Thing. All of that is available instantly with your own custom RSS feed that you can listen to on your favorite podcast app, including Spotify. Visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s to find out how you can get more of your favorite podcast. That's this one, we hope. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am one half of the mega podcasting powers, Trip Lano. And with me, as always, is my tag team partner, the fully corporeal Macho Mandrew.
Andrew Lano. That's debatable in some circles.
We are winding down I-May-Ginary Friend Month with a movie I had never seen before this viewing. I'm guessing
I wish I hadn't seen it.
We're watching Drop Dead Fred, which I know is a beloved classic for a lot of people out there, and you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your awful imaginary friends. We got your awful imaginary friend.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So I want to start this with a question.
Yes, I did half-ass that because I don't care about this movie.
That is not the question. Is this the worst fucking theme month I've ever come up with?
I think it might be. I think, unfortunately,
because this fucking sucked.
I hate this movie.
I hate this one more than Little Monsters, and I really didn't like Little Monsters.
Yeah, well, I will say this gets like 2 more grains of sand in the like pile because I guess the other one I could too, but like people try like ascribe this to be like a commentary on like abuse and whatever, and like
I want to dig into that, but
I think. To me, the quote-unquote better version of Little Monsters that we crafted wouldn't be as good as the quote better version of Drop Dead Fred that we're going to craft, because
I think that's almost certainly true.
I think that
this movie has better bones.
It has better bones than Little Monsters. So I think that is where it gets a couple grains of sand. It gets a little sprinkle of salt in the like category. And it's basically just that salt on the balance scale.
Did you? I did find this little tidbit out that I thought was delightful. Did you write down the actor's name who played Fred? It's Rick something. R-I-K.
Mayall.
That Mayall is what I thought was. Okay, so he was originally cast to play Peeves in the Harry Potter movies.
I saw the character got completely written out.
Well, it got completely written out because they fired him because he kept making the kids laugh.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there was a story that I read from Daniel Craig that was, or it was either him talking about Daniel Craig or Daniel
Radcliffe.
Daniel
Radcliffe. Why is Daniel Craig talking anything about Harry Potter?
I was playing James Bond, and then I saw Harry Potter.
I don't remember Daniel Craig as James Potter, because that's a different experience for me.
It's like how he's like the voice of a stormtrooper for one scene in one of the Star Warses, because he was just like there and is like, I like Star Wars, put me in a Star Wars. I should just do him as Benoit Blanc. I don't have a Daniel Craig, but I do Benoit Blanc.
He's a good Benoit Blanc. It's good.
It's just Foghorn Leghorn, but it's fine. Anyway, allegedly Rick got fired because he was like doing bits and the kids were breaking during the takes, and it was just this guy was so goofy and funny.
Goofy? Or am I?
No, Peeves is, but he was ruining takes is the issue. So it's like, it's supposed to be, the kids in the foreground having, a conversation about the really dangerous thing an adult has asked them to do irresponsibly. And then in the background, here's Peeves peeving around, and the kids were like unable to get through their lines.
Gotcha.
So they were like, this is untenable.
I mean, a lot of the ghosts, as far as it's been a very long time since I've watched those movies, But I think a lot of the ghosts quietly got removed from those movies unless they were necessary for the plot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an adaptation, so like that's part of it. And like, if you made a TV series version of it, which I'm sure they're going to do, that stuff gets left in because it's all atmosphere and world building. And like when you're doing movies, some of that stuff gets cut because you try to do that through set design and decor and all that stuff. Yeah. I had not reread my wife loves those movies and books and rereads them with some frequency, and I reread them my 30th birthday, so like 7 years ago now, and I had forgotten so many of the details. Like I forgot Peeves existed because I had only kind of like half seen the movies on like weekend marathons, and that was like as much as I had.
Family weekend holiday marathons.
Yeah.
TBS because all the Harry Potters for the next 72 hours. Because God forbid you talk to grandma.
Well, you can only talk to grandma for so long sometimes. ABC Family, I feel like 4 networks trade
so
who gets
ABC
them
Family
for streaming
gets them
and for
at
broadcast.
Christmas time.
It goes HBO, Peacock. Yeah.
Yeah, the 25 Days of Christmas for ABC always includes every Harry Potter movie.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Which is outrageous. Well, like the first 2, I think you can put in the pile of like
Christmas Happens.
Yeah, of like it's got good holiday vibes. Like it's a good, it's kind of got the connection of family and friends. It's kind of got these elements that kind of feel holiday adjacent. I think you can safely put those first few up until the Alfonso Cuarón one.
I think it's just the first 2 then, because I think he's the third one.
Yeah, you're right. So the first 2, I think, have the vibe of holiday movie. I think that's fine. Also, everybody should watch what they want. But I think those 2 make sense to me.
I just think it's
like
interesting
adjacent.
that in the 25 Days of Christmas, where it's like the year without a Santa Claus, and all 4 Santa Claus movies, they're also like, and Harry Potter's here. And you're kind of like, you are?
What's this one doing here? Yeah.
All right, did you go in the wrong door, buddy?
Right. So this guy who's since passed away, I believe.
I think that's correct.
He was supposed to be Peeves, and then they fired him for being too funny, which I find delightful.
Facially, he reminds me of, I think his name is Michael Sheen.
Okay. He plays like tough guys.
No,
scary guys.
No, he plays like.
Oh, the British actor.
Yeah, Michael Sheen, the British actor.
Yes. I was thinking of Michael Shannon.
Oh yes, he is. No.
Which is a lot of similar letters, but not the same.
But Michael Sheen is...
Yeah. No, Michael Sheen.
Good Omens, I think. Yeah. I didn't watch it, but I... Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So
I haven't watched the second season, but the first one's pretty good.
But this guy, Rick, is it his first name?
Rick, I believe it's Rick Mile. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Confidently say that. Rick Mile's face reminds me of Michael Sheen's, and I was like...
I can see that.
I was like, there's the Good Bones version that we're going to pitch. We're going to cast Michael Sheen in this role.
I will also say this. I think there is a world in which you watch this movie when you're 6 and Rick Mile is the funniest thing in the world and he like really makes you laugh very hard as a kid. I think that is a fully possible thing. Part 2, I think most of the people I know who like this movie a lot are women.
Really?
So I think there's probably a couple of friends of mine in college really like this. I never watched it then, but they were a fan of it. I remember talking about it and thinking it was Little Monsters actually, and then being like, no, it's this other thing. So I've known a couple people who like this movie, and it's always been women. So I do wonder if like we're just not the audience here. That's
I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard anyone speak about this movie. Period, whether positively or negatively. I'm kind of curious now.
Okay,
but. That's interesting that it was a predominantly female fan base in your limited experience.
Whenever I have known someone to like this movie, it has been a woman who liked it as a kid. So I'm curious if that's always a part of it. You and I were just texting off pod about the movie Lisa Frankenstein, where I was like, I think this movie is probably like gangbusters for a certain section of the LGBTQ crowd, and it just for me it was just like, this isn't landing. But I don't think this. It's like it didn't do anything for me, but I'm not going to be like, fuck this movie. It's just like, this probably isn't for me. I'm an old white guy, straight white guy.
Ironically, I texted my friend whom I share a lot of similar movie tastes. He's the one that we quote Heathers back and forth all the time and like things like that. Yeah. I was like, did you ever watch Lisa Frankenstein? And he was like, I haven't. I heard it's a mess. And I was like, I wouldn't say mess, but it's certainly... I was like, it's not a full-on Monet, but it's certainly not a Betty. It is just like a weird...
Yeah.
The vibes are there, but there's no story to be had.
Zelda Williams, Robin Williams' daughter, directed it. It's the first thing she's directed. I think she has a lot of talent. I'd like to see her do more stuff.
Oh yeah,
and
she definitely. Based on this, I'm like, oh, you can do this. It's just this material's not, which is crazy for Diablo Cody, who like.
That's what I was going to say. He was like yeah, she's written some very good stuff. It's like the interesting thing I feel like is, and we don't have to have a full Lisa Frankenstein discussion, but at least it's not talking about this movie. The
plot twist. Diablo... It's an April Fool's episode late, and we're just going to talk about Lisa Frankenstein.
It doesn't have the Diablo Cody like signature rat-a-tat quippy quip dialogue, and I wonder if that was her intentionally like turning that knob down to see like what she could do differently. Yeah. And I think that maybe suffers for it. Like so a lot of that stuff ends up feeling very dated. I haven't rewatched Juno in forever, but I rewatched the one with Megan Fox and yeah, thank you. Which I think is I thought was a fun horror movie
in current days.
I always thought it was like a fun schlocky B movie, and now people are like, "Oh, this is like actually kind of fun." It's like, well, it was always fun. You guys were just stick up your ass about it. Like it was a movie about a succubus, for Christ's sake. Yeah. Like it's a weird monster.
Big sapphic vibes.
Right. Anyway, so I wonder if that's like a piece of it. And the other thing I said to you is like, making the Frankenstein character completely mute just like wastes. Is it Cole Sprouse or Dylan Sprouse?
It's Cole. I think it's Cole.
Yeah. It just wastes him. He's a talented actor. He's funny. He has good timing. And he could have, I think, made a meal out of some Frankenstein-y 5-word lines. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, I need here. You know, that kind of, like if he were to like get a new ear or whatever. Like I think he could have. That was bad, obviously, but I was just like throwing the first thing out on the top of my head is like I think he could have made a meal out of stuff like that. He's a good actor.
I love Catherine. I love Catherine Newton. I think she's really talented in everything I've seen her in.
She's really fun in as one of the people in Abigail, which I recommend as well. Soft recommend,
on the list,
but recommend.
But
yeah. It's available for home rental now. Okay. So. The expensive kind. Anyway, let's get through this damn movie so we can eventually not be doing this episode anymore. Sorry, you finish your thought. I cut you off.
Yeah, it's another case of like I think the script just needed more stuff going on. It felt like it was just like, what was the word I used?
2 more drafts.
Meandering. Like it didn't feel like there was a solid through line, and I was just like, I mean, I guess. I don't know. I was bummed because I had high hopes for the vibes.
The vibes are good. The vibes are good. Great. The rest of it is a little lacking.
Criminal use of Carla Gugino. It was just like not a great role. I love Carla Gugino. Like,
I also had someone point this out, or I read this review and I was like, oh shit, like that. I didn't quite put those pieces together, but the dad who's like completely oblivious in that movie is played by the same actor from Stranger Things, where he plays a dad oblivious to what's happening in his house.
Whose dad is he in Stranger Things?
He's the main character, Finn Wolfhard's dad.
Yes. His wife is the one that gets screen time other than Winona Ryder. She tried to shoot the lifeguard.
Yeah, he's barely in it, but he plays a dad who's like not paying attention to what's going on, and it's just like plugging and playing the same actor because it's also the 80s just seems a little silly to me.
Also, last point, and then we'll put Lisa Frankenstein back on the shelf. The fact that the whole like murdered mother subplot didn't really go anywhere.
None of it goes anywhere.
Wild choice, because I was like, oh, Carla Gugino's the murderer. Oh, dad's the murderer. Oh, so like here's what's, and then nope.
Yeah, nothing in that movie ultimately matters, which is why it doesn't
bums
do
me out
for me, I think. Yeah. Anyways,
I learned in this movie that Phoebe, not that a woman is, beholden to who she's married to, blah, 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 blah. Phoebe Cates is married to Kevin Kline. I didn't know that.
I learned that too. Yeah. I found that out on the wiki as well.
I was like, she's married to Mr. Fishoder?
Yeah. Huge age gap there, right?
I think it's like 20 years. So like,
yeah, that's a big gap.
But I think when you're like,
that's a full childhood.
But I think when you're they got together later in life, I think.
I'm sure.
So I think when you're, if she was like 18 and he was 40, we're getting Aaron Taylor Johnson vibes. But
yeah. At 70 and 50, I still think there's like a big cultural generational gap. Maybe Kevin Kline's youthful and she's an old soul.
He's probably youthful. And I wish that what I'm assuming the industry was awful to her, because I wish she would act more. Like, she left acting to raise her children, and I'm like, well, it sucks she didn't make that, like...
I mean, I'm sure that she made that decision somewhat of her own volition, but I'm also sure she turned 22 or whatever, and they were like, "Well, now you play grandmas."
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm sure it was a lot of factors, like the industry being garbage and blah blah blah. But like,
Right.
I like Phoebe Cates. She's very charming. I think she
Yeah.
can act, like she could do stuff.
Look, not to be a gross hetero monster, but Phoebe Cates made a big impression on a lot of impressionable teenage boys who watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High at a certain time in their lives. Okay, like let's just call it out when it's available to be called
That
out.
red bathing
She's a
suit.
beautiful woman. Well, and then not the red bathing suit. Have you never seen it not on TV?
I've seen clips.
Oh yeah, no, not a bathing suit.
Well, I know that there's the scene of her coming out of the pool with the bathing suit because Bo Burnham made a vine of that where he came out of the. It was like Phoebe Cates starting to.
But the TV edit, she's naked, or the in the real version of the movie, she's naked.
Oh, she is. Then
Yeah,
I've only ever
that's
seen
what I'm
TV
talking
clips,
about.
apparently. But yeah, it's her starting to come out of the water in the bikini, and Bo Burnham. It cuts to them, Bo Burnham like with like goggles on, trying to get out of the pool
That sounds
because he
delightful.
thrived on Vine.
Now I'm checking that I'm wrong here, but I swear that was the scene that I remember. That
I mean, maybe she comes out of a pool multiple times. It wouldn't shock me.
it is
Or-
no. I googled and the image that popped up verified what I remembered. So okay,
I mean, because it
You've
could have
only
been
seen the TV.
a Christmas vacation or a vacation. Like she gets out of the
Yeah,
pool and
yeah.
throws it could have been that.
Yeah. No, that Christmas Vacation scene is referencing that Fast Time scene. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
It's the same bathing suit and stuff. Anyway, let's get into the movie. We start off with this like fairy tale Princess Bride voiceover intro that really sets up what's going on in this movie in the most confusing way possible, I feel, because we've got Phoebe Cates, and then we're like jumping back and forth between like youthful Phoebe Cates, adult Phoebe Cates, and then Fred makes it in the picture. But there's this like real wistful quality to this voiceover, I want to say.
It's the mom,
about, like,
and who the mom was also in The Goodbye Girl, which I enjoy,
okay.
with Richard Dreyfuss.
Phoebe Cates as a child calls something her mom has asked her to do a big pile of shit, which is very funny to me.
No, I think she says that romance is a big pile of shit or something.
Oh,
like that.
yeah. We cut to
Some real cute opening
adult
credits.
Phoebe Cates.
Have to say, give credit.
Yeah, that's true.
Pun
yeah,
intended.
credit for the credits. We got Phoebe Cates. We got Tim Matheson from Jesus
Very Brady
Christ,
sequel.
Revenge of the Nerds. Sure, and Revenge of the Nerds. They're having a big breakup, and
So it was weird because I was like, okay, I know this movie's about an imaginary friend, whatever. I was like, is he gaslighting her or is she a crazy person? The way that he's like, no, we said this, you said this. I was like, is he gaslighting?
Yeah.
Or is it not
Yes.
that?
And then we have Phoebe chasing down Tim Matheson, who's a car salesman, during a test drive, which is kind of like a fun little, like, is she crazy kind of scene.
Yeah.
And then I was just thinking about this. The scene right after this involves a payphone. And obviously, like, we didn't live through it. But I feel like writers of movies pretty much always have the payphone issue solved. Like, I would say 9 out of 10 movies, it's like the person just like reaches in their pocket and has the change for the payphone.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in real life, that was an obstacle people dealt with, right?
It wasn't
I'm sure people
55
carried change.
I feel like it wasn't.
No, it got to be in the 50 cent range when they were going away. Like, I remember putting 50 cents.
I just mean it wasn't like, I thought it was like a 35. It wasn't like a normal.
I'm guessing it was a dime for a long time. Then it was probably 15 cents, what have you. But it's just like, because the Jim Croce, at least in the 70s, was dime, because in the Jim Croce song, is it Time in a Bottle? One of the Jim Croce songs, no, it's Operator. He says, you can keep the dime. So that was the cost of the payphone call, at least then. But it's just funny to me. It's just like 9 times out of 10, every character has just like a pocket full of change, opens the palm, grabs the coins, cling, cling, and it goes. And it just feels like this would have been an issue people would have had of like.
It's like when
well, I don't have a
when people
quarter.
get
Is
out
it
of
worth
cabs
wasting
in
a quarter?
movies, they just reach into their wallet and hand.
Hand
it's
them
always the
change.
perfect
Yeah.
thing.
I just think I'm just surprised there aren't more movies in which acquiring the change for the payphone is a thing where it's like, couldn't you imagine a scene in one of these movies where like probably be more like a kid's movie or a teen's movie, but they like fan out and try to get a bunch of cans to turn in to get the nickel to put the.
Or I'm
make the
picturing
phone call.
like John McClane has to like.
Yeah,
like, hey,
sure.
I need 10 cents for the phone, Mac.
Yeah. That kind of, yeah. That exact kind of thing. I realize the thing I just said about the soda cans is exactly the thing that they do in the Sandlot, but I'm just saying it's like a thing that would work. Anyway,
she gets her purse stolen and then her car stolen, and this is where I realized that she's dressed like a child.
We have a run-in with our old friend, our old neighbor, who is played by a guy
Adorable.
from. He's also really funny in the movie Mystery Alaska. He's one of the hockey players in the small town, and has one of my favorite lines in the whole movie, which is, "I play hockey and I sleep around because those are the two most fun things to do in cold weather."
I like that.
It's a great line. But he is good. He is charming and sweet and cute and like
a little confusing. We'll get to it, but a little confusing.
He has a little bit of the childlike, the knob on the childlike gets turned up too much a couple times. You know what I mean? Like, you've got a slider between childlike and like genuinely concerned for well-being
child
mentally.
In the nursery in Peter Pan or the parents in Peter Pan. Like,
yeah.
Which, ironically, Robin Williams declined this movie to do Hook, and boy, did he make the correct decision.
Yeah, although, honestly, if this is a Robin Williams movie, it's probably a movie that we like more. Like, he comes in, he does the zip, zap, zap crazy business he does, you know?
Yeah, but I feel like he would end up being like, this doesn't make sense. Why does
well, maybe he gets better then.
Maybe that's what we don't know that it will get better, but like, again, he'd be like, why the fuck, if I want to be her friend, why am I making her life actively more difficult? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that is the part that I find excruciating, is like as with Little Monsters, this character is an asshole. Mm-hmm. This character doesn't seem to have affection for Phoebe Cates' character. Like, he calls her Snotface not in an affectionate way. He calls her Snotface.
Yeah, and I don't get it. Because if he is the manifestation of childhood trauma and abuse, why the fuck is he
Show me the childhood. Also, how about you show me any childhood trauma or abuse in the movie, other than the one dream sequence?
With the mom. It wasn't very trauma.
But, like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of on mom's side. If dog shit has been rubbed into the carpet, that is worthy of punishing your child. You know what I mean?
She's an adult when that one happens, but she does one point say, "I wish I loved you more." Like, she says things that are...
I'm not saying this woman's up for Mom of the Year, but Phoebe Cates' character as a child seems like a pain in the fucking ass.
I agree, but you still don't say that to your child.
Yeah, I mean, she should overhear.
Unless you're, like, on trial for murder. Like, the child's on trial for murder as a child, and you have to be like, hey, look, we're clearly this happened. We gotta throw in the towel here. Then maybe I'll allow you to say that.
You could instead have the situation be that that the mom is a little more, like, maybe Phoebe Cates overhears her saying that stuff to the dad as opposed to saying it to her.
That could be.
To like draw out a little. But it's like they make an implication later in the movie that's like Mommy Dearest-esque, where Phoebe Cates is strapped to the bed. And I'm like, you didn't establish a Mommy Dearest level. You just
kind of domineering and a bitch, but not Mommy. That's not Mommy Dearest. Those are two different things.
And mind you, I don't want to watch this cute little girl in this movie get, like, hit with a belt, right? But, like, in a world in which the kid spills all of the box of cereal on the floor and then proceeds to dump everything on the breakfast table into a big pile and make an enormous mess, you get in trouble for that. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Like, you need to learn that's inappropriate. It's like, the mom doesn't, like, whip her with a belt. She just sends her to her room and then has to clean up this huge, disgusting mess that has been made, you know? Yeah.
Also,
it seems like a reasonable punishment to me as an adult.
I started to get really nervous because Fred is British and her dad is British. And I was like, did he touch her? Is this like that?
Oh, Jesus.
I was like, are we going? I was like, because I kept reading things that were like,
this movie could not survive that idea.
No, but
I will say.
The people reading like the reviews on Wiki, it was like, for such a heavy, to try and handle such a heavy topic with such weirdness and lightness is irresponsible. And so that's why I was like, oh, how heavy does it, like, is this where this is going to go? Because there is a version of this movie. There's a sliding door moment where, like, she created Fred because her dad touched her and was like a quote unquote respite in the storm or whatever bullshit.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is, like, they kind of do the same thing in Little Monsters where it's like the parents are getting a divorce, but like if you want it to be that she has a shitty childhood and Fred is the manifestation of her escape from that, like let's get mom and dad yelling at each other. Let's get
let's get a real shitty house.
Right, just like let's do anything to establish that.
Like if the camera panned left, it was the McAllister's house. I'd be like, yeah, this makes sense. This house.
It is the McAllister's house. It's huge. Yeah. Anyway, we meet Carrie Fisher, who's like barely in this movie, and I'm wondering if she did some script punch up.
She apparently did for herself.
Okay. She has her do some affirmations, which are pretty funny to like, deal with the breakup.
Yeah. Oh, she also gets fired as a court stenographer.
Oh, right. Yeah,
so she lost her husband, car, purse, and job within like an hour.
So we have the controlling mother, and she wants her to come home, and she's like, no, I'm staying here. Smash cut to the childhood home.
And apparently
when
she said that the imaginary friend's name was Drop Dead Fred, I was like, that's concerning.
Yes.
If my kid said my childhood, the name of my imaginary friend is Stab Face Sammy.
Right.
Hey, why don't we go see a doctor real quick? Why don't we sit you on a leather couch, kiddo?
I kept waiting for the joke of drop dead, Fred, exclamation point. You know what I mean? Like as a command, like drop dead, Fred, like that. Like if that was the way that you dismissed him, right? That would make some sense.
Yeah.
It's never explained. And then when we see the other imaginary friends later, they're also named insanely.
Like go to hell, Harry.
No sense.
What?
Yeah.
What? Imaginary friends were named like Blue and like Stevie and like
right
and like I've never heard of an imaginary friend with that stupid name.
No, agreed. There's a truly horrifying pink bedroom that has not been updated since Phoebe Cates left.
Real plush,
so
real
immediately
padded.
she starts. Yes. She just immediately starts regressing. She's asleep, and a hand comes from out the pillow and slaps her.
It was
in the
like
head.
a childhood memory that also happened. I also like.
Yes.
I don't love.
It keeps cutting back and forth between like baby her and adult her, and it's very hard to figure out what is actually happening. Sorry, I cut you off.
I don't care for a grown adult man hand in a little girl's bed.
It's not the best.
Maybe it's a 2024 lens thing. IDK. I just don't like it.
But that's the thing that like this establishes very early that Fred is a dickhead. He doesn't like tickle her. He doesn't like even like a wet willy, which is a gross thing to do to somebody, but is like more playful than slapping her on the forehead.
Like, let's have an adventure. He just slaps her on the forehead,
but like,
and disappears.
Right? It's like tickle her under the chin, tickle her behind the ear. Do something silly. Slapping her is pretty aggressive,
especially
and then he's always this aggressive.
It would have been great, quote unquote, great. If like, because it's like a hand reaching out from under the pillow, we can't see the body.
Yeah.
If he like tapped her and then pulled the hand away, and she like flipped in bed, and then it came out the other side. Was it doing a couple of those?
Yes.
To like make it whimsical,
perfect.
make it fun.
Yes. Yeah, and then have him like make the like noise that they use in cartoons for pulling something out of a tight spot, and then it's like, and Fred is out from under the pillow, sitting on the top of the headboard or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. He gets freed from a Jack-in-the-Box.
He was
one of many
trapped by masking tape, apparently.
Yes, that the mom did. The mom.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, well, we find out later. And we get the first of many like Fred ejected about the room in sort of claymation-y CGI.
For a movie that's PG-13, it sure has a lot of like, whoa, stuff going on.
Yeah, and like. It seems I can't tell who the intended audience for this is. It clearly must be
mystery.
It clearly must be children, but Phoebe Cates is a grown woman.
But it's PG-13, so it can't be for children,
right? And they dress Phoebe Cates in a very like childish.
She's dressed
manner
like an
for
infant.
Most of the
it's
movie.
Wild.
Yeah. It's like she's got a very 6-year-old's outfit on.
And the thing is, like
most of it,
her style could be translated to an adult. Like Elaine from Seinfeld, often dressed. Not dissimilarly, but styled in a way that was an adult. There were vests on top of the dresses. There were like, it felt more mature, but she feels like she never discovered her own sense of style, and she just kept dressing like she was, going to Sears and get an ankle-length dress off the rack and just like, good enough.
She's got some saddle shoes and some white socks with frilly edges.
It's very strange because to me, if the movie is Phoebe Cates has lost her sense of self and doesn't have a direction and needs to be reminded of her childhood in order to like find herself. That is a progression that I've seen 100 times. I think that makes sense. This movie doesn't have that. It's just like, you're mousy. Anyway, here's an asshole for the next hour. And now you're confident. And it's like, well, hang on. What?
Yeah, this movie follows the structure of like exactly what you said. This person needs a confidence boost, and this outside force is what propels them to believe in themselves. But we never see Fred do anything like that.
He doesn't do anything positive for her.
Exactly. And 2, Phoebe Cates doesn't take the intermediary steps between 1 and 4 in that. She just is confident at the end. It doesn't like, we don't watch her become confident. We don't watch her like progress
she just
towards
stops
this.
taking her medication and is confident.
Yeah, she isn't confident, and then oops, I'm confident now. Done. And it's completely unearned and bad writing is what it is.
And so
we're gonna get so many people upset. I think this is like a movie a lot of people love.
I apologize, everyone. I don't have the nostalgia lens for it.
Yeah,
the more successful version of what we're describing is pretty well done in that Christopher Robin movie that Disney made like 5-6 years ago, maybe 10, between 5 and 10. It's Ewan McGregor as Christopher Robin, all grown up. And he's like a very serious businessman. He's like the dad in Mary Poppins, like business. And then he has to like, he re-meets all of his 100 Acre Woods friends who teaches him that like, hey, you're not being a good dad and you're not being a good person.
Yeah.
So like, learn your pooisms, be more like Eeyore. And the animation's really good in that movie too. Like it's everyone looks very like snuggly.
Yeah.
I think it's on Disney Plus. I don't know. Maybe if it is, I highly recommend that movie. It's a better version of learn from your childhood to be a better human being.
Very cool. So Fred is very angry about the toys missing, and he immediately starts being a complete shitheel, which I just like don't understand why these movies have this thing where the imaginary friend does a bad thing so that the kid gets blamed for it. And I don't know what that is supposed to be showing me. Like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to glean from that.
I don't either. And like, I know I'm
in either movie.
I'm guessing it's a thing where little kids will blame the imaginary friend for things that they did.
Yeah.
But neither movie feels like it's actually made for children who would benefit from that escapism. And also, like, I would imagine in the child's headcanon, the imaginary friend didn't do it to get them in trouble. They just did it, and they happened to get in trouble. Like, some screenwriters kind of missed the through line there of, like, I don't think the little kids are their imaginary friend, their only friend in the world, is like, oh, no, I want to fuck your day up. What little kid is imagining that? What awful, poor, broken child is imagining that?
Right. It doesn't make any sense. And it's not like the part in which Fred encourages Phoebe to make a huge mess, I could see like Phoebe's sad and he's like, let's do this fun thing that distracts you, sort of Cat in the Hat style. Yeah. That's fine. But what he does here is literally rub dog shit into the chair and floor carpet that her mother just had cleaned. And I understand a world in which like, oh, I'm supposed to glean that this means mom is a hard ass and she's yelling at the adult Phoebe Cates like, oh, the carpet just got cleaned. But I also just don't think it's unreasonable for an adult to tell her adult child that the carpet was just cleaned and that you can't walk on it until tomorrow. Yeah. That's like a very reasonable thing to say to an adult woman. Like,
it's the same as I imagine the flip side of like, hey, we just got the driveway re-asphalted. You can't walk or drive on it. And then Phoebe Cates like riding a bike up and down the driveway.
Right.
And it's like, well, no.
Now,
we had a service. We're waiting. And
yeah.
And then it's fine.
And like, if it was child Phoebe Cates is playing with a ball and it goes and bounces into the room she's not to go in, and Fred's like, it'll be fine. And then like she goes in there and she makes a mess and she gets in trouble. Like, okay, that is like a child not understanding a consequence and receiving a penalty. This is an adult woman. Like, what is she?
Grown ass woman. Like, she's 30, probably.
Right. Yeah. And so is it like Fred does its own thing of its own free will and has no, Phoebe has no control over it, in which case, like, okay, then he's a dickhead. Or 2, she's just wanting petty revenge on her mom, and she's wants
just
Fred
a broken
to do this?
sociopath. Like,
right? Yeah. It's like I don't understand what I'm supposed to glean from the scene, and also it's not funny. Like this scene isn't like a yuck scene. It's like he literally just like casually rubs shit.
He
into the
goes
carpet.
outside
like,
and then comes in walking on his hands, and he's like, "Now there's dog poop on my shoes," and it's like,
yeah.
And then they do he like jumps, and it's a close up, so you just see his hands leave the floor and his shoes hit the floor on the other side, and it's like, this feels like Ronald McDonald whimsical bullshit.
Yes.
And this movie is PG-13.
Right.
This isn't a Ronald Silly Tape or whatever the hell they were called from McDonald's in the late 90s, early aughts.
Yeah. Silly Symphonies?
No, it was the Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald. I got there.
Okay. Future episode. Stay tuned. So, yeah, we cut to the next morning. The mom is, like, in tears practically, scrubbing dog shit out of this carpet and being like, why did you do this? Like, what on earth is happening? And Phoebe Cates is like, later, bitch. Like, she just flounces out of the house.
No, she goes to the kitchen, and mom's mad. And then Fred shows up again in the kitchen. And mom still keeps being like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, I love when the mom is like, Phoebe Cates says, like, do you remember Drop Dead Fred? And she's like, I don't remember a Drop Dead Fred at all.
No,
appears.
She goes, do you remember my imaginary friend? And mom's answer is, I don't remember Drop Dead Fred at all. And I was like, oh, lady.
And then Fred appears and calls the mom the mega bitch, which again, I've not seen this mom be a mega bitch. You said that she said that line. I did not remember.
Well, she'll say it later.
If it's
but like,
true, that's
when
bad.
When
Okay.
he first shows up, mom has not really, she's been controlling and domineering, but not like not a mega bitch.
Yeah. And then we get like one of the more famous gags of this is Fred gets his head smashed in the refrigerator, and it's like an enormous pancake, weird looking.
The effects are well done.
Effect shot.
I hate it.
It's so unsettling looking.
2 sentences. Effects are well done, period.
Yeah.
Second sentence, I still hate it.
This is where I wrote, I'm sure this landed for kids, but boy, I literally want Fred to drop dead.
What kids are going to a PG-13 movie?
I mean, we did.
But I can't imagine mom being like, oh yeah, this is the kids movie. Like, these are the antics that I would expect in like a PG movie. You know, your heavyweights, your I don't know, the weird Hansel and Gretel movie I watched that no one ever knows about with
No, I'm with you.
Mandel,
It's a whoa hijinks kids movie.
It is wrapped in a PG-13 shell, which like.
And speaking of PG-13, the next thing is the first of 2 times in a movie in which Fred looks up a woman's skirt.
Awful. I hate it.
And both times makes horrifically misogynist attacks on them. In this case, he's like, there's cobwebs in there to the mother.
So she's lonely and sad.
Yeah, like, okay, well, her behavior makes a lot more sense then if she's just a sad, lonely woman whose daughter won't talk to her.
Because, well, even with going back for a second to the whole, I don't remember a Drop Dead Fred at all. I was like, is this a Freddy Krueger situation? Where, like, we're trying not to say the name. If we don't say the name, he dies.
Yeah, it would be great. So we find out Fred is here until Phoebe gets Charles back.
Because that's what she wants in the world, I guess.
And they have like a big fight, and he storms into the world, and he gets hit by a fire truck. And I was like, man, I wish he really was dead.
I
and
would love it if
he
Fred
in the movie
went right out of this fucking movie. Also, mom blames Phoebe Cates for Phoebe's divorce.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, this mom isn't a good character, but she is like a level of suckitude that does not warrant the.
She's like rich, like the rich kid's mom. Bad in like an 80s movie.
Yeah, right. She's out of touch. She's not very nice. She's not very warm, but it's like, I don't see her be physically abusive. We hear a little bit of verbally abusive, but not a lot. And then the movie later is like, oh, look, it's
here's everything you missed and why the mom was a bitch. And it's like, well, you could have shown that earlier.
Yeah, it's like that should be the beginning of the movie, is like Phoebe
it should have been a montage of mom being a bitch, Phoebe needs an escape.
And also show me Fred appearing for the first time after Phoebe has been unjustly punished for something.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, give me the origin of Fred popping into her life. So we get a flashback. Fred plays burglars with Phoebe, and instead of just like pretending to steal stuff, they destroy half of the shit in this house
and then go to bury it in the yard. And this is where, again,
yes,
they like really lean into mom as a two-dimensional cartoon villain because dad calls the police and he's on the phone and she's over his shoulder, not letting him get a word in edgewise to the police. I'm like, all right, but that's still not really like a murderable offense.
Yeah. And then Fred is like, Phoebe, I'll take the heat for this. And she tries to be like, Drop Dead Fred did it. And then Fred is hiding and is like, oh, actually, I'm a huge baby and don't do it.
And then there's this one moment that they try to use to justify everything where he's like, I'm like, you have to be a good person. Don't be like your mom. Don't be an adult. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I need more than that.
Like, I think of like Big, right? And how when the child Josh becomes an adult, he kind of teaches some of the other adults that having a little bit of your childhood whimsy is a valuable commodity. Yeah. Right? And like, if Phoebe Cates worked in advertising and then relearned this lesson of not growing all the way up and being a little bit whimsical and, you know, it serving her in some way professionally, whether she works in advertising or not, that's just first
just make it that she had a dream job and never went for it because she settled for being a court stenographer, a practical, solid job.
Yeah. She wanted to be an artist and she didn't pursue it.
Fashion designer,
wanted to be a writer and didn't pursue it. Yeah, whatever the hell. Pick it out of a hat.
Something that is very unstable.
Yeah. And like that works, but the movie doesn't touch on any of that either. I really did not care for this movie.
I don't like it.
Claymation Fred gets sneezed away. This happens like 4 times in the movie where someone sneezes and Fred launches around like a bouncy ball.
I guess maybe we should glean also that Phoebe Cates is allergic to gladiolas, and mom plants them outside and has them in the house, which feels...
I think planting them outside is fine. I think bringing them in the house is shitty behavior.
Yeah.
Also, at one point, somebody's on the phone upstairs and Fred yanks the cord out of the wall downstairs and it affects that phone call. And I don't think that's how that works.
That was with the dad with the police. I don't remember that being a thing.
Yeah, I don't know why that would be an issue because presumably the phone line upstairs is hardwired to the phone line. It's not like you cut the line to the house.
Yeah, that like in Gremlins. When they do that, they rip it outside.
Yeah, right.
But, I don't know, Fred's stupid.
I will say the one thing I did find very fun looking is when they smash the window. I thought that did look delightful.
Always fun to do.
There's a TikTok I saw of a writer named Jason Pargin who found this video of a guy who was like walking around. I don't know if it was a demolition project or there was some sort of error, but it was an office building where all of the doors and office walls were glass. They were like...
I've seen
8 foot by 10 foot panes of glass, and the guy is just like breaking all of them with a hammer.
I think I saw that with the caption like they wouldn't pay him or something. So who knows what?
Oh, okay, yeah, whatever it is. But it just like the clip from the writer Jason Pargin. He was like, "I want this job. I want to break this glass all day, every day. Let me have this job. I'll do it for free."
Well, I still love the thing I saw on a TikTok or Instagram or short form media, where it was basically like. 2 panes of glass. There's 3 panes of glass, and then the one in the middle, they're like bolted together, so it's like a sandwich. And then they take like an ice pick to the center one and hit it with a hammer.
Yeah,
so you get the beautiful shattered effect, but it's like all safely encased.
I have seen that as well. Yeah,
it's so cool. So mom,
the dad tackles a cop and gets arrested.
Yeah.
I thought the dad was getting shot dead in this scene, and that was going to be like Phoebe's childhood trauma.
Well, I don't think that happened much in the 80s, or if it did, they didn't talk about it.
I just wanted that to be the source of Phoebe's inexplicable dead dad. It's like my childhood imaginary friend convinced me to fake rob the house, and then my dad was shot down. Yeah. No. I wanted like in Gremlins when Phoebe Cates is like,
you wanted another monologue.
I wanted a monologue with Phoebe Cates of like watched my dad get gunned down in front of me when I was 6 because of my imaginary friend.
And that's how I learned that there's no Santa Claus. That's I can't wait to do Gremlins. We didn't do Gremlins yet, right?
No, you have. This happens every year midsummer. You're like, we got to do Gremlins.
We will. So mom takes Phoebe Cates for a makeover day.
The computer outfits and hair and makeup was very funny to me.
They were. And they were at a Mac counter, which I was like, I didn't realize Mac was like, to me, Mac is a 90s product. I didn't realize, I guess it's 1990, but.
Yeah. And mom gives her the Nancy Reagan, or which I was, here's my good little joke. And then later in the movie, somebody calls her, Marilyn Quayle, which was fucking ruthlessly accurate if you look up a picture of Marilyn Quayle. By the way, speaking of, sorry, mild tangent, Marilyn Quayle is the author of a book called, one moment, The Campaign, a novel by Marilyn Tucker Quayle and Nancy Tucker Northcott.
Her daughter?
I was thinking sister. I tried to find information and could not. A conservative African-American senator, Robert Grant, is a hopeful in the next presidential campaign, but the incumbent, fearful of losing his power, sets Grant up to take the blame for a murder he did not commit, and he must clear his name and solve the murder.
Okay, sure.
And then Goodreads inexplicably has this carryover sentence, presumably from like 1995, 96, when this was published. It says $70,000 ad/promo tour. Which I thought was funny that got copy pasted in.
It did. Also, my Mac, the Mac product I like is Ruby Woo lipstick. It's one of their cult classic shades.
Just doing free ads in the podcast now.
No one shops at Mac anymore. They're so desperate to get people in the doors at this point. I have never been to a Mac store where I wasn't the only person there in like the last 4 years.
We got Phoebe back with Tim Matheson, and she's shaving him, which is so inexplicable to me. She's as like a sensual thing for partners to do.
She's like remembering fondly their like relationship, and it's like playful and fun, which like doesn't really line up with what we've seen of him so far.
Right. But also, like, I don't want someone to playfully rub a razor around on my face.
No, I don't.
That's just like not a place.
Unless I'm not playfully, but if I'm paying you to shave me, don't do it playfully.
There's nothing wrong with a person shaving another person. I find it weird that they're having like googly eye or Jesus Christ. They're making goo eyes at each other, and she's like doing flair with this straight razor. I'm like, how about we do like goo eyes while we do the hair gel,
Yeah.
Like let's have some fun with like, she gives him a mohawk and he's like, come on, I gotta go to work. And then she does like devil horns and he's like, Phoebe, like give me that little, and she's like, okay. And then she like does the, classic 80s douche slick straight back move that he clearly wears in this movie. Like, give me the safe, fun hair gel, not a straight razor inches away from his jugular vein.
She also, mom puts her in the exact same outfit and hair that she's in, and she goes, yes, so much more grown up. And I was like, yeah, she does. Like, she doesn't look like she's lost on the way to show and tell anymore.
It's a bad outfit and a bad makeover, but it is correct that she looks like an adult now.
Yes. Like if the previous outfits, Phoebe Cates was also carrying a brown lunch bag, I would believe it.
Yes. Yeah, or like a My Little Pony lunchbox, or whatever the equivalent of
a backpack, or a leather strap of books.
What's that He-Man character? Princess She-Ra? Is that what it is? Yeah. She gets this note. She thinks it's from Charles, her ex, and LOL, no, it's actually from Fred.
Which is just like,
and then when he
inexcusably cruel.
Yes, he like comes to her and she's like not having it, and he's like, what's the matter? And it's like, I don't know, man, you're playing emotional nuclear war with me, fuck you.
And then immediately she warms up to him, and I was like, why?
Yeah, again, like nothing in this movie leads logically to the next thing in the movie.
It's sentimental bullshit. Fred is cruel and awful.
Yeah. We also find out that Charles made posters for this wine tasting party he's having. Is he a 16-year-old rich kid? Like, who's making posters for their party?
I think it's like a wine society thing. Like, I don't think it's I'm having a party. I think it's like, this is the gathering of the wine society.
But isn't that like a small group that you invite? Like, I could see invites, but posters? Where are you putting these posters? Who are you advertising it to?
I think they're up at the party later. Like
they definitely are.
I think it might just be decoration at the party.
I see.
We also learned that British dad left mom. We don't learn details yet, but we just know that much.
Yeah. So we go to Carrie Fisher's house. It's 3:00 in the morning.
No, we go to Carrie Fisher's houseboat.
That's true. That's true. It's 3.
It is a paddle boat. It is a houseboat. It is the Liberty Bell.
It is a steamship. It is a theme park attraction.
The Lily Bell, I think, is what the Disney World one is called.
I thought it was called the Mark Twain.
Maybe. Oh, you know what? The Lily Bell is the train car. You're right. It's the Mark Twain riverboat.
Okay. Well, it's a full-on steam paddle boat that she lives in, but it's 3:00 in the morning. She's getting down with the man that she's into, and Phoebe Cates is like, "I need to stay on your couch," and she's like, "No, I'm getting laid.
Right.
Go home." And Phoebe Cates is like, "No, I need to stay here," and Carrie's like, "Again, no, getting laid." And then the man yells down like, "You coming back up here or what?" She's like, "See, laid. I got to get back up there."
But she still lets her stay.
Insane that she lets her stay.
I know. Because she even
And then
says,
Fred-
she starts to tell people it's my imaginary friend, and I'm like, ma'am, that's a one-way ticket to a padded room.
Absolutely. That's an involuntary hold.
That is a
She's telling us-
5150. That is monitored medication taking.
Yeah. Which should be a scene in this movie, by the way. It's not. They cop out and have Tim Matheson do it, but that should absolutely be a scene in this movie. Like, she gets committed because of this.
Oh, fully. But then here's the thing. I want the version of this movie where the imaginary friend is the villain, objectively is the villain. And he's like, well, you abandoned me, and so I'm going to make everyone abandon you. And so like he does all the shit so that she gets in a padded room.
That is what this movie is. That is 100% what this movie is. It just doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I want. I want that movie. Like, that's the hard movie I want, where it's like, it ends with her in the padded room, and it's like, well, it's finally you and me. And then she kills herself or some whatever that like blinks him out of existence.
Or it's rated B for bleak and she just screams.
That's either one.
Or she finally learns that if you say "drop dead, Fred," in the right intonation, he literally does. So Fred chops all her hair off while she's asleep, which is incredibly fucked up. Or no, only half of her hair.
It's like an asymmetrical lob, long bob.
But this is one of those scenes where it's like, in the dream, she's a child getting her hair cut off, and then we wake up and it's like adult Phoebe Cates with her quail haircut.
Well, it's also like the Selma Blair in Hellboy.
Yes, it is. So Carrie and her man are very confused as her hair is just like loose on their couch, or Carrie's couch rather.
And she says, "Oh, my imaginary friend must have done it," which, like, again,
complete lunacy.
These men in white coats would like to talk to you.
Yeah. She sees Charles drive by on a boat.
She thinks she does. And I was like, so did Fred do that?
100%.
We don't see that, but...
Right, we never see it. But and he goes speeding by in like a little speedboat, 16 foot, 20 foot, like a small,
13 to 16,
normal,
I would say. It's a smaller one.
Yeah, a regular boat. And Phoebe's like, well, I guess I better catch him.
I better drive my friend's steam-powered paddle houseboat.
Yes. She it's like that fucking round thing with the dial on the side of Titanic, and she's like
with
a bunch of dudes are in the bottom,
slow, fast, very fast.
Yeah,
slow down, lady.
She puts it to full ahead on both sides for both engines. A bunch of dudes are down there
shoveling
coal, pumping coal into this thing. We're like, we can't take this much, Captain. And she's like, we gotta catch my man. It's like, lady, this boat doesn't go as fast as that boat. You'll never catch him.
Fred causes fucking chaos because he doesn't care about anybody, not even Phoebe Cates. And they fucking sink Carrie Fisher's houseboat.
Yeah, Fred destroys a bunch of stuff in trying to, air quotes, fix it. And then then I'm like, oh man, they wrecked the boat. And then they cut to the boat, the little steam stack slowly dropping underwater.
He goes, I'm going to fix it, and picks up a wrench and starts smashing dials. I'm like, that is, like, objectively, that's not trying to fix something. If he put the thing on and starts like opening something he wasn't supposed to, at least whatever. But like smashing dials is objectively not that. You're not trying.
Right. And we cut to her and Carrie Fisher, and she gives the most like half-assed, half-hearted, I'm sorry. And I'm like, lady, you should be groveling at this woman's fucking feet. This is your mentor, your best friend.
Or you need to leave town. You either need to never look her in the eye again and leave town.
Yeah. You need to like leave the clothes you were wearing on the boat so that they float to the surface, and people are like, she must have drowned.
What a shame.
Yeah. And then you move to another country under an assumed name and never go back.
Mm-hmm. You flee to Canada. And Carrie Fisher immediately is
anywhere.
Like, oh, okay. You have an imaginary friend. He's real. Which, like, I have a lot of great friends. I don't know that I
Yeah.
have a single friend who would immediately be like, all right, so you have an imaginary friend who's real and sank my houseboat.
Because it leads to like, oh, Fred is in the meeting, he's sitting in your chair, and Carrie goes in this meeting, pulls the chair out, and like does what you would do for a little kid, where you're like, the kid's like, there's a monster in my closet, and you would like drag the monster out and pretend to fight it or something. She's like pretending to fight Fred, and then
Phoebe Cates goes mute instead of because Fred is out of the chair objectively,
right,
and when Carrie Fisher like.
Also, this scene is 10 times funnier if Carrie Fisher actually is kicking the shit out of Fred.
Yes!
Like, and like, Carrie Fisher believes her because she can feel her fist connecting with something even though it looks like it's air. Like, that is objectively a better version of this scene.
Yeah, so he slips out of the chair and Carrie Fisher grabs the air and goes, do I have him? And he grabs her head, Phoebe Cates' head, and nods it up and down. And I was like, so she can't talk. She can't say, no, he's not. Stop doing this.
Yeah.
She lets Carrie Fisher make a fucking fool of herself at her very high-paying job, it looks like.
And then she ends up like yelling out about, you know, the one night a month I get laid when my boyfriend leaves his wife and stays with me, and in front of the guy and all of their coworkers. And it's like, oh, so you in one day, Phoebe Cates, you sank her home, you ruined her career, and also ruined her relationship, such as it was.
Yes. Because Lord knows no one's blaming the man. She was a slut.
Yeah, right.
Awful.
We cut to Phoebe having lunch with that aforementioned childhood friend who is clearly in love with her.
Like, wildly, like, basically, like, his butt is in the air and his little back is arched as he's, like, wiggling his toes, floating through the air to Phoebe Cates.
He's like the Tex Avery wolf with the tongue that you have to reel back in and the eyes going.
Or a pie, or someone going, a cartoon kid going for a pie on a windowsill.
Yeah. And Fred, instead of being like, hey, this is a way healthier choice for you, he's like, this is booger face. You can't like booger face from next door. And so he makes her pour a glass of water into her lap and into her dish, and then act completely insane. She starts like picking up the salad with her hands,
moving her arms. I was like, he's gonna think she's got a neurological condition.
Yes. And it's just like, how is she not snapped? And then she smashes a glass on the floor.
And she throws her plate across the room.
Yeah. Before that happens, we get two truly appalling looking lunches. Two of the grossest looking meals we've seen on the podcast.
That's the smallest, I wrote that down. That's the smallest salad I've ever seen. It's like a side plate with like one piece of iceberg and like a tomato slice.
And then he has like one cherry tomato, and
apparently he has spaghetti, and I was like, that does not look like spaghetti, my friend. Mon frere.
Yeah. But yeah, she throws this plate across the room. It like lands on these two strangers' lap. They're getting food thrown on them. It's just like, everything about this fucking sucks. When is Phoebe Cates gonna snap at Fred and be like, why are you ruining my fucking life?
I've seen Phoebe Cates strangle him in the bathroom. Like, choke the life out of him until his eyes pop out of his head and leave him on the floor of the bathroom.
I want like a very violent prison murder where he gets stabbed like 100 times 1 inch deep, and that's what gets him. Mm-hmm. That's what I want.
Or the what's the Eastern Promises? You want the brutality of the Eastern Promises in a fancy restaurant bathroom.
I want Fred to get the dip from Roger Rabbit.
I would love nothing more than that.
I want Fred to be like trundled up, like, you know, like arms and legs
like
tied
he's an escape artist, but there's no escaping this time, baby.
And I want him lowered into a pit of the dip. That's what I want.
But no, she doesn't choke the life out of him in the ladies' room of this fancy restaurant. Instead, her date Mickey is like, well, this is fun, you're so whimsical, and starts throwing his spaghetti.
Yeah, which is like, man, this dude is desperate to get laid, huh?
So desperate.
He's like, nothing you do is weird to me.
Oh, baby.
So we see her like arguing to no one.
At a weird little mall orchestra concert?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then Fred is like, fine, I'll leave. And then Fred proceeds to ruin this orchestra concert. We think like that's the other part of this is like, I never can tell what is just what Phoebe is seeing and what the whole
I think this instance, it's just Phoebe hearing and seeing. She thinks Fred has taken the place of one of the violinists and doesn't think to question, like, well, hang on. There was a violinist there, and now it's Fred.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And she, like, runs up, snatches this violin, punches her, smashes the violin on the ground, and then we smash cut to the mom, like, paying for all this, which, like, hey, I'm sorry. If this mom is supposed to be abusive and shitty, guess what? This scene is Phoebe going to jail and the mom being like, I'm not bailing you out because you're insane.
Mm-hmm. Or, like, I'll bail you out if you do X, Y, and Z. Like, it's all transactional.
Right. It's like, here she comes with the checkbook, saving the day, and I'm just like, it's inexplicable, is what it is. It's inexplicable.
And she's still trying to insist in this room. She's like, it was Drop Dead Fred. I'm like, baby, no.
Yeah. So we finally take her to see a psychiatrist an hour and a half into this movie, basically. No, it's not. It's only a 90-minute movie. It's probably an hour in. And this is a shrink that specializes in imaginary friends. And so Phoebe Cates is sitting there next. Well, the children are who has imaginary friends generally, because we see Phoebe Cates talking to a woman who looks the same age as her, and she's like, "Which one's yours?" And Phoebe Cates is like practically muttering and talking to herself, and she's like, "I'm here for me. We're here for me, baby, yeah!" And the woman's just like, "Okay."
If Phoebe Cates is basically about to tell her the bugs are all over her skin.
Yes, exactly.
And this is where we see the other imaginary friends who don't seem to be as like garbage as Fred. We don't see them do much, but like they don't talk about like, oh, we all like to ruin our kids' lives.
Yeah. And they're all hugging, and it's kind of funny here because we see Phoebe watching Fred act a fool with these people, but she can't see the other people, so she just sees Fred dancing with nobody.
And then we see like the kids' perspective of their imaginary friends doing the same. It's cool, which I like that.
I did. That's like one of the only things I like about this.
There's a cool exploding head effect, which was cool.
With Velcro.
Is that his name?
I think so, because doesn't he snap himself back together?
Oh, I think he does, yeah. The most difficult thing to believe in this movie is that...
That's exactly what I wrote, too.
That a psychiatric drug has no side effects. Yeah, right, buddy. On what fucking planet?
You can barely take an Advil without getting adverse side effects.
Yeah, this drug changes your brain chemistry, and there are no side effects. It
erases imaginary friends, yeah.
Mary, come on. That's the least believable thing in this goddamn movie. It would be, frankly, if you're going to be... Because if you want this to be a comedy, it's funnier if mom goes, what are the side effects? And he picks up one of those, like, dot matrix papers and just goes, like, thump.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You can read them here, and mom's like, I don't need to read that.
Fred is like, they're going to turn you into one of them, a person who likes broccoli. And I'm like, she's fucking 30. I hope she eats vegetables.
Yeah, he's like, you ate broccoli and liked it. And I was like, yeah, that's what adults do. You learn what food is.
Right. Also, maybe she learned that you could roast broccoli and it tastes better than when you boil it, cheese. Fred. Sure.
But this imaginary friends are like, hey, don't let her take the green ones. They'll kill you. And I was like, hey, can she take 5? Can she take 10? Exactly. I'll take one if it'll help.
I want Phoebe Cates grinding this in a mortar and pestle so she can snort lines of it.
I want the applesauce mixture to be so thick with the capsules that it's just a thick paste. There's no sauce anymore.
Give me the last third of Requiem for... give me the 80% to 90% of Requiem for a Dream where it's like full throes of addiction level of Phoebe Cates just like getting these pills in. I want her cooking it on a spoon and injecting it between her toes. Yep. Give me all of it.
Mainline this fucking drug, Phoebe Cates.
Yeah. And I want her doing it to be like, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker.
She hears that and is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we get a flashback and it's the dad is reading the paper that says they put a man on the moon.
Right before the flashback is where we get the mommy dearest vibes, where she tucks Phoebe Cates into bed with this like Conchata Farrell looking nurse, and Phoebe says yes, and she goes, yes, what? Yes, mother. And I was like, what? When did that happen?
Yeah. So like, I get that if you're doing that from Jump Street, then the abuse thing lands harder for me, and I understand that like, you know, they don't want to be too obvious with it. They don't want to make mommy dearest or whatever, but it just seems so half-assed for people to be like, oh, it's this abuse narrative. And it's just like, I mean, I guess kinda. It just seems like real tacked on. Yeah.
Also, one of the writers could have been an Olympic swimmer. And I was like, maybe that should have been where you devoted your time.
Well, I assume they like didn't make it.
No, he turned it down to go to Harvard is what the Wikipedia said.
Oh,
to
Interesting.
swim for the Harvard swim team. And I was like, maybe you should have done the Olympics. Maybe we wouldn't have had this movie, you know?
Did they write anything big? Like, were they a
No, I
Lampoon
don't think
person?
so. Hang on, maybe. I'm talking out of my ass right now. I just remember that that aspect, and I was like, ugh.
So
Now we get the...
yeah, we have this flashback, and the paper is like Man on the Moon, which I guess means Phoebe Cates is like 25-ish.
Well, so it says 21 years later,
Yeah.
and that would have been 69 or 60. I don't know when the
Right.
Russians went to the moon.
It's 69 for US, so let's add 20 years, it's 89. Or, sorry, 21 years. This movie's 91, right?
Yeah.
Verifying. Yeah. So 21 years, and she's like 5. So she's like probably 27, feels right.
Okay, yeah.
But in this flashback, we've got baby Phoebe saying pretty heinous shit to her mother at Fred's suggestion, which again is just like, this guy sucks.
And
why is this guy the hero?
And Dad doesn't give a shit.
No, he doesn't care at all.
And then later, after Mom gets upset, and this is where Mom says, I wish I don't love you as much, or like something truly heinous for a parent to say to a child, but also it came right after Phoebe Cates saying, let's throw Mom out the window in front of her mom. So like no one's coming out good here. They do the whole make a muddy pie mess on the table, and Fred jumps into the Jack in the Box, and then Mom realizes that that's where Fred lives to Phoebe Cates, so she takes it, and the dad is like, I'm not going to tape it. It's not right. And I was like, at best case, your daughter's an ill-adjusted psychopath. So, like, maybe be a parent. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's inexplicable the way the dad behaves in this, to be quite honest with you.
Because everything is like, oh yeah, she threw paint on she threw paint at the elderly neighbor. She shaved the neighbor's cat.
It's just pure destruction and honestly, like borderline sociopath shit.
Yes. Ill-adjusted sociopath.
Yeah.
Like, do some parenting. And he's like, I don't know what he wants out of this. It's weird. So Mom has to be the bad guy.
Right. And then there's a sequence where the mom gets really angry and Fred says like awful shit that's like they're going to kill her, eat her, and shit her out on the table.
Yes.
It's just like way too specific and really gnarly. Again, for this ostensibly children's movie, although as you've repeatedly said, it is PG-13.
We'll cut off her head and make her eat it. No, I'll eat it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I make him a villain. Make him a psycho. Like,
right.
He's the reason
he is the villain of this movie.
Exist.
Yeah. Yeah. So they put Fred in the Jack in the Box and they tape him, and the dad does nothing to help and then just like walks out. And that's supposed to be like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back of the dad in this marriage, I guess.
But again, like, that makes no fucking sense to me that Phoebe Cates is a nightmare and a terror, and Mom is desperately trying to parent, and he's just not. And then he leaves.
Yeah. And then we see Phoebe Cates write this letter that's like, Fred, you're my only friend. I miss you.
In fucking wingdings.
Right. And then it cuts to, it's just scribbles. And Fred is like reading this out to her, and she's like, well, if you read the letter, why didn't you come back? You left and all the life went out of me. And I was just like, what? I'm sorry.
That was not clear, Phoebe.
What is this? And also, I'm sorry, movie. It's like 75 minutes into this 90-minute movie. You don't get to unleash the abuse narrative now and be like, oh, this was like a truly like a mommy dearest level abuser, and Fred was the one saving thing that made her feel normal, and she was only acting out because she was being abused. It's like, if you want that to be the movie, you have to make that the fucking movie. Well, and that starts 70 minutes ago.
Apparently the director did rewrites inspired by his own childhood abuse. And he was like, it was never spoken about on set, but I knew it was there. And I'm like, okay. I think it's if that's the message you want to put out in the world, then it does need to be talked about on set.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's just a mess.
Yeah, agreed. Also, I looked up the writers. The movie had 2 writers. Each only wrote one other thing. I assume the person you're talking about is the one who wrote a film called Swimming Upstream from 2003. A young man aspiring for recognition of his talents battles against his estranged father's sentiment toward him as the father deals with his own demons. And the guy is in a pool in the little tile here.
That sounds right. You can only write one
those
fucking
two credits.
thing.
Those 2 credits are 12 years apart.
On Wikipedia, it says whether one of them was a swimmer, but whatever.
No, that was a movie about a swimmer, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, Phoebe Cates is like, the light left my world when you went away, and I was like, but No, it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you started cleaning up after yourself? Because you started accepting consequences for your actions? Like,
right. And started being less of like a true hellion as a child.
which again, if this movie's for children, that makes sense that like the villain of the piece is growing up, is being a grown up.
Right. Right. So she breaks the window. Ricky is waiting for her. The
So in love with her. He brought her dress that she left in the restaurant.
Yes.
Also, the mom and
a new dress she had bought. She didn't get naked at the restaurant. We should clarify because that would be in line with what the kind of shit Fred does to her. Yeah.
Mom and the nurse, I'm like, she's a grown ass woman, and if you don't have conservatorship or power of attorney and prove she's has no faculties, this is kidnapping.
Right. It is. It is fully kidnapping. Adult napping, I suppose.
Yeah. Is there a word for kidnapping? It's like,
no. I was just being.
Well, no, I think there's like how
unlawful detention or something like that.
Yeah,
probably.
I was gonna say because there's like manslaughter, which is just like death. Yeah. I feel like there's one for.
So they have a nice moment. The friend and Phoebe.
And she's just like,
he
bye.
He drops her off at this party. Yeah, yeah.
He's like, I really like you. Bye.
Beat. She's like, okay.
I gotta get out of the car
Slips
now.
Out of the door. Yeah. And Fred shows up at this wine party looking like a CGI children's Christmas cartoon character from 1997.
Is it a specific character or just?
It's exactly what he looks like to me. Of like, remember there were those like cheap CGI, like post Toy Story where everyone was like, this is how we make children's programming now. And there are all those like cheap holiday specials. And he just looks exactly like that energy to me.
Kind of,
like
yeah.
Big green
he also looks
suit.
like he could be in the Emerald City.
Sure, yeah.
There's a lot of hunky men in togas at this wine event, which I was like, all right, I'm here.
We get a butt.
And then
we get a man butt.
Fred rips the sleeve, the shoulder seam off this guy's toga, and this poor man is just now naked and trying to cover himself.
Yes.
He's like, can someone take these trays, please?
Yeah. It's like, dude, just drop them on the floor at the point where your dick and balls are out. It's fine.
Yeah.
Cover yourself with the tray and run out.
Well, then you're dropping the wine and the cheese on the floor. So, like,
I think that's fine in this instance. Bridget Fonda is here for like 1 minute. I don't know why she's in this movie. Fred
she's in like
pervs
Placid,
on
right?
her. Yes, she is. Fred pervs on her, looks up her skirt, and then starts just like yelling about her lady
Because when
parts.
Beetlejuice does that, we know he's a bad guy. It is done as a bad guy doing bad things and hurting people.
Right.
That's what people don't fucking get about Beetlejuice. Like, Beetlejuice is the bad guy in that movie.
Right. It's just the difference is everyone likes him, so he became not the bad guy.
I just mean story-wise, script-wise, he is...
No, I 100% agree, but I'm saying is like people remember basically like the children's cartoon where they were best buds. Like that's people's memory of the movie is like Beetlejuice is like that little scamp, but like no, Beetlejuice is very bad.
He's awful and a murderer and a bad guy.
Yeah. And Bridget Fonda is mad for like 11 seconds about this like really bizarre set of things that's happened to her, which I find
Well, it's also that she was told my ex-wife is a mousy woman, and and you're not that. And then she meets Phoebe Cates and is like, well, she's me. Like,
yeah,
we're pretty similar, dude.
Yeah, like, she's hot. What's wrong with you? Basically. So Charles returns into her life, and Fred and Phoebe move back in. Yeah. Charles knocks the nurse out when she tries to like come
with like a cast iron skillet, which she would die.
She would have just had her skull shattered. Yeah.
Her nose would go into her brain. And she would cease to live.
Yeah. There'd be a long police investigation.
Or the movie takes a weird turn and they bury the body. Fred helps them bury the body.
We'll just blame it on Fred.
Yeah. So then literally he knocks out the nurse, and the next scene is the nurse like rubbing her nose and mom giving Charles all the pills and being like,
yes,
you can give her these, bye.
It's done in the most like children's movie way too. It's like this enormous bottle with enormous pills that's like fully clear, and she's like, it might as well say like the Fred killer's on it.
Yeah,
she's
the
like,
fact
here
that
you
it doesn't
go.
say like because how in what was it in
It's honestly something. It's honestly
in Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like NO-DOZ, like no doze or whatever. Like, where was the stupid name on these things? Like, no crazies.
The level of this pill handoff is like Hairspray the musical on Broadway. Like how that, it's like when somebody needs a hairdresser or a hair dryer in that, it's like, a 6 foot long hair
It's
dryer.
the industrial strength hair dryer from Spaceballs.
Right. Yeah. It's just like this cartoonishly obvious prop is what this thing is. It's crazy. Also, I can't get over how Phoebe Cates isn't smart enough as a character who seems like she's old enough to have gotten married. She can cook a meal for herself.
She got a job as a court. She learned how to do shorthand, or is that what it's called?
Right. No, stenography, I guess, is like that special kind of typing.
I thought that was shorthand.
Shorthand is physically written. I don't know if it's also called the same thing for...
Because I thought that the
keyboard.
stenographer keys were just the shorthand symbols. I thought.
It's possible that they are, yeah.
I would love to be able to write shorthand. That'd be such a weird, stupid skill that like no one would use, but would be a fun thing at parties.
Our mom can do it. She could probably teach you.
Can she still, though?
I don't know. Ask her. People used to look at my notebook when I was a reporter and be like, oh, do you know shorthand? And I'd be like, no, that's just my very bad handwriting.
And these are all letters. These aren't syllables and sounds. These are all letters.
Yeah.
So there's a weird mini montage of her taking pills?
Hold on. I gotta finish the thought that I was there. We see Phoebe Cates as like a fully professional adult. Stop talking to Fred in public. You're smart enough to know it looks like you're talking to yourself.
Grab a cell phone.
Even if they don't exist yet, walk over to the payphone and pick it up and talk into the phone. Like, just don't talk to yourself.
Well, cell phones existed in 91.
I don't know that Phoebe Cates has access to one. I'm just saying it's like there are options.
Yeah. Because that's what I love in the movie where like psychics or people who talk to ghosts, they put in their AirPods or their headphones and it's like, oh, cool.
So Charles calls her the wrong name and he goes full scumbag gaslighter where he's like, now would you rather I called you Denise or that I was stooping Denise and calling her Phoebe Cates? And Phoebe Cates is like, you make a good point there. Like, no, he doesn't. No. God damn it. This movie is awful.
I hate it.
And that's the thing is like Fred doesn't save her from this,
and then gives her a green pill. He literally Charles was like as like a sexy like when you as the way someone would like rub a strawberry around someone's lips before feeding it to them.
Yes,
he like takes his green horse pill and is like, and then like rubs her throat. Yeah, swallow,
exactly.
Swallow.
Yeah,
good girl.
He wraps it in a piece of cheese. And
he puts it in a pill
you
pocket.
Want a snack? You want a snack, Phoebe? But it's like, okay, if Fred is supposed to be the hero of this movie, shouldn't he be the one that like helps Phoebe catch this guy cheating on her, and then like she has a realization about herself that she doesn't need this piece of shit anymore, and that like Fred helps her see that the neighbor is a good match for her and a good guy that she should date and see how it goes with him. Like,
because Fred doesn't give a shit about her life. That's what
I'm saying. It doesn't make any fucking sense. He is a villain.
Later, he's like, oh, she's cheating on you because he stumbled into learning that fact. But in this moment where he's clearly gaslighting her, Fred's just like, that's not how pigeons have sex. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Walk into traffic. So we get the mini montage.
Now we get the bad montage
of taking pills and then talking to Carrie Fisher. And she's like, turns out that houseboat was worth like, it's implied that it's at least $1 million.
Yes. She's walking on air, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And also, she's Phoebe Cates is still in the Nancy Reagan, Marilyn Quayle duds here. It's like she got like 6 outfits from the mom to like, fill this gap. Also, Charles comes home and Phoebe Cates is like, I made your favorite dinner, beef Wellington, on a weeknight? That is not a weeknight endeavor.
I mean, it could be like, thank you for taking me back, because she's, got no backbone.
Sure. But like, I guess Phoebe doesn't have a job at this point.
True.
And then it becomes this like he pulls the cloche off the like little silver cover thing and is like, what is this? And it truly looks like a big pile of horse shit. Like I was like, what the hell happened here? And she's like, it's a mud pie. Tee.
Fred did it, and then the mud pie like sploops onto his pants.
Yes. Yeah.
She's like scrambling to be like, I'll make a romantic salad. I'm like, okay, well,
yeah,
salads are good. Like you can have a tasty salad, but I've never heard of a romantic salad.
A romantic salad doesn't exist. It's not a food you eat romantically. It requires too much chewing.
Well, and like, unless you're cutting all the lettuce or whatever your base into small pieces, sometimes you got to do that like, where you force the whole like wide leaf of lettuce into your mouth.
Right. So Fred is fading out while this is happening, and then we go back to the sneeze gag, and he goes up on this like partition. It's like a half wall in this house. It's kind of a weird
I feel like
design.
that was a popular thing in like 90s like style.
Yeah, I guess
to, like
so.
exposed top. I don't know why. We all liked the idea of unfinished things. Clear and unfinished was how we wanted our houses.
We like the idea of not having any privacy in your home whatsoever.
Yeah. And he hears Charles on the phone with the other woman still being like, I'm in control. Phoebe Cates doesn't know anything.
And Phoebe Cates is like, but I'm scared to be alone. And even this doesn't have like a moment of self-actualization in it, really.
No, he's like, you're not alone. And then they disappear into this hellish dimension.
Yeah.
I will say I did like, how much longer is in this fucking movie?
They do a lot of like shit. We got to get this done in the last like 17 minutes or so of the movie, give or take.
It's this nightmare version of her mom's house, and then Charles pulls up.
I did like the model of like the little house as we like roll up to it with the camera. It was,
cool.
A scale model. Looked cool. Sorry, yeah. Charles rolls up.
Charles rolls up in his car and says, I don't know, something stupid. Can't pay attention. And Phoebe pulls the Jaguar hood ornament off, and he like untying a balloon, the car like flies away, and I was like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. Also, this is like fully Are You Afraid of the Dark level, this house.
Yes, it is.
And all the like the way they dispatch these villains.
And then the stairs are just painted on, and he's like, we need to go a way up, and she imagines a tree.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck we're supposed to be getting from this, that like she's,
and what are the rules?
like, this is the moment in a Freddy Krueger movie when someone learns that lucid dreaming is a thing.
I can fight back.
Yeah, that's what this is.
The one we did where the girl like arms herself and goes in after Freddy.
Yeah, but that's not what it is. They climb a tree, and then the mom comes out and is like, you can't go in there. I'm a two-dimensional bitch. And Phoebe Cates says, I'm not afraid of you. And she bursts into flames. And I was like, yeah, I guess.
Honestly, it's like the we're not going to take it Twisted Sister level where there's like an angry dad, yell, yell, yell. And they just like push him out with the sound of rock.
A fucking Nickelodeon magazine commercial. Of a fisheye zoom, crash zoom on a parent.
Yes,
being
yes,
like,
yeah.
Eat your vegetables.
Yeah, yeah.
Which again, this movie's not for children.
Yeah, this stuff is just so deeply unearned. Like, Phoebe Cates learned to self-actualize in the 1 minute where she saw Tim Matheson cheating on her on the phone. Like, she caught that he was still doing this even though he said he wasn't. And it's just what is this?
She sees her childhood self masking taped to a bed in the same masking tape that kept the box closed. And I was like,
yes.
Truly, what am I supposed to take away from this?
Yeah. And it's like, she's like, Fred, I see it now. You were only trying to improve my life. And it's like, really?
Was he?
He was trying to improve your life when he was like, hey, destroy the house and help me destroy the house and then take all the blame for it. And your dad's going to get arrested.
Hey, what if I make it look like you're having seizures and Parkinson's in a restaurant?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you've ruined her life.
Right.
Remember the time you made her assault a violin player in the mall?
Yeah, that just gets glossed over, but she should absolutely have gone to jail for that. Destruction of property, assault. And then Fred is like, I'm sorry, you have to go on alone from here. And she's crushed by this. And it's like, this man cost...
First of all, he hasn't been here for 21 years of your life and just showed up and caused chaos immediately. Why do you care?
You lost your home, your relationship, your car. Your relationship you probably should have lost anyway.
Yeah.
Probably the opportunity to have a relationship with the other guy who thinks you're insane in a real movie, not this movie, of course. Your mentor, whose home you sank, although she magically got money out of it. And also, you seem to have a fine relationship with your mom. Now, I guess you're never going to speak to her again. I don't really know what's happening here.
Unclear. But he's like,
also,
kiss me.
Also, you have no money. You have no money because you have no job, and it's very clear you have no savings. Sorry. He does say kiss me.
So they kiss in this void, and then he disappears, and she wakes up on the floor next to her last pill. And I was like, I have lost the thread here.
Yes. She dumps a salad on Tim Matheson, which is kind of funny.
And then does the nose pick wipe on him. And I was like, no, slap the fucking shit out of him.
Yeah, yeah. Fred taught you how to do that, too, because he used to slap you in your sleep.
You're right. You should
Like,
the
do
slap,
that move.
the V8 forehead slap that he used to do to her.
Yeah. So we cut to her confronting the mom, who is like, well, the dad left because of you. We only had you to save the marriage. And it's just like, ugh.
Again, in the 11th hour.
We both said it at the same time. It's not even the 11th hour. It's the 11th hour, the 59th minute of the 11th hour.
The bells of midnight have started tolling.
Yes,
We are down
exactly.
to the 11th toll, and you have until the last echo of the last bell of the last chime of midnight, and you gotta finish this fucking movie.
Yeah, and so the mom like says this, and Phoebe Cates just kind of shrugs, which is the correct response. And then the mom's like, "But I'll be lonely," and she like gives her a big hug and leaves,
And says you should get a friend, which is like sick burn, but
yeah. Like, what is this? God, I hate this.
And then she goes to see Mickey and is like, he's of course fine with it because he's, I don't know, a moron and a psychopath himself.
Yeah.
And then
and also is like, hey, you should come meet my kid, even though it seems like we've all been dating for like 2 weeks or something.
if they're even dating yet.
I guess they're childhood friends, which smooths it out a little bit, but still.
His daughter comes running out, followed by the elderly babysitter, who's like, she made a mess in the kitchen. And then, plot twist, his daughter is Fred's new victim.
Yes. And I thought this was going to be a moment where, like, Phoebe sees Fred, but she can't see him anymore. And so she just, like, has this moment with the kid where she's like, I used to know Fred. Tell him Phoebe says what's up.
And then they snare trap the babysitter, which would have broken a bone, a joint, and anything.
Could have broken her neck. Could have killed her.
I hate it. I'm sorry. I fucking hate this movie.
And like if your kid, imaginary friend influence or not, snares an elderly woman and strings her up by the ankle in a tree, that kid should face repercussions. That is an act which deserves punishment.
And that punishment could be go to a facility for a little while.
Yes. It's absolutely insane. I could not believe how much I did not like this movie. I was like,
very mad.
You know, this is a beloved one that people, you know, really like.
It's a cult classic.
Right, but it's like, you know, I have friends who like this movie. You know, they don't listen to the podcast, so all will be fine. But it's just like, man, oh man, I can't believe how much this sucks.
Yeah.
It's so much worse than the other one, which was bad.
Yeah, I would love the idea for someone to do an imaginary friend as an allegory for repression of childhood trauma. That would be fun. Not fun, but like that would be an interesting movie.
Movie, yeah.
Imaginary friend as an actual villain, acknowledged villain, confirmed villain. Right. That would be great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a million options.
So this doesn't bode well for that If movie that we're trying to tie into. If both of these sucked.
It also didn't do very well financially, so, you know, I'm guessing that it all is fine. I do want to see the horror movie Imaginary Friend, like Blumhouse,
the
that
bear
came out
one,
in like March. Yeah, that looked interesting. But yeah, I mean, I was never going to see the John Krasinski one anyway. I just thought it was going to be like,
I might watch it on a plane eventually.
It seemed to me like the first big movie of the summer on the schedule for the summer movies, and I was like, oh, let's try to tie into that, and that did not work. Ugh, hard
pass.
Not recommend. Do not watch this movie. If it's your childhood beloved favorite, I'm sorry that we spent 90 minutes shitting on it, but this did not do anything for either of us.
Just let the episode play with the volume down so we get the play number.
As long as you listen to the first like 6 minutes, I think it counts. So, my God. Yeah. Well, that brings to a close the worst theme month in the history of nearly 10-year history of the show.
I think so.
Dreadful situation there. We are jumping into a different theme month next month, which was originally going to be John Lie, and we were going to do it in July.
And now we're just doing the month of John.
We're doing the month of John, with starting with I guess we didn't decide which one was going to be first, so I'm just going to arbitrarily pick one. We'll start with Johnny Dangerously, the Michael Keaton movie.
I haven't seen that in a while. I really hope it holds up.
Yeah, same. I'm like, is there going to be a bunch of racist stuff in here? So that's what I'm a little bit fearful of. But we'll find out. That'll be coming your way in 2 weeks in June. We got a different theme shaping up for July, given some of the things coming out this summer. But I believe Johnny Dangerously is either an 89 or an 84, so it's either 40 or 35. We'll tell you that when we get to that episode. Rate and review the show if you haven't done that. We really appreciate those. Recently saw we are like the 220th most popular film review show in Norway. So if you're a Norwegian listener, say hello. Love to hear from our listeners across the globe. Love to hear from all of our listeners. In fact, you can do that at Dissect the 80s on Twitter or X on Facebook. And of course, email us at dissectingthe80s@gmail.com. We'd love to figure out where the hell we should be on social media because I don't know any of it. I'm an old, sad man and I need to help promote the show, but I'm not good at it. So help me make the show more available for others. And on that note, tell 2 friends if you like the show. It's the best way to hear about stuff is if friends tell you it's good. So tell 2 friends that you like this show and that they should check it out. We will be back, as always, in 2 weeks. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production. Ow!